There's an emotional baggage anytime they meet the Florida Panthers. So hello, good evening. This is Taiwo Najobi, your host on Analysis Meko Sports. You know, we always like to bring on filtered opinion. Tap analysis has some big love for Canadian hoops and ice. One of the things I'm always excited about is, just talking about sports, bringing some of the best quality of sports that you can think of across North America, England, and, every part of the world. And today is run by Taiwo, your analyst and unapologetic fan of the game. I like to say this is 7:36 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Today is a good day. Take a chance and be amazing. I also like to say, pursue your passion, have some fun, sing your heart out, and, just try to make a difference across board. I've not had the opportunity to really talk about hockey, but the good thing is right now we're fully in the playoffs, and I try to just do some of the recaps of the season and how the postseason is beginning to pan out. I did some analysis that makes it a bit brief to be able to talk about all the key achievements that have happened so far. But before I go into my analysis, I just want to talk a little bit about what are the historical things we need to start to look at when it comes to NHL and hockey at large. First of all, the Edmonton Oilers have been in the finals back to back, and they've been to the finals with the same team back to back, and the Florida Panthers beat them back to back. The first year was in 2021, fighting it out with the Montreal Canadiens as well. Montreal Canadiens are really showing up. They won the first match. Tampa Bay won the second one. It's a bit of an even matchup. We have one of the youngest Montreal Canadiens team that we've had in a while, and they're really making a lot of noise. Suzuki is playing very well. Slavilovsky too is also playing well. All those young guys, they are trying to show that, man, they're here to stay. Slavilovsky is just about 22 years old, so he's showing that he can fight at the biggest stage. Going into the narrative, no Canadian team has really won the final in 33 years. So it's beginning to look like a desperate situation for a Canadian team to go into the Stanley Cup final and challenge. The only team that will probably be able to help us push a bit is the Edmonton Oilers that have gone to the final back to back. And the three Canadian teams that are presently in the off-season, which is post-season, Ottawa, Montreal, and Edmonton, they've been able to enter the 2026 playoffs with a lot of healthy players on ground. Psychologically, they are prepared. They are carrying some kind of what I call a cultural burden. With a 33-year desperation, the Canadian team has not been able to win the Stanley Cup for that long. So for me, it frames what I call a national storyline. And right now, these are the three teams that the entire city and the entire country generally is backing, into this pressure cooker so that they can go in and help Canada win the Stanley Cup once again. So the supporting lines basically is aiming to hopefully one of these teams should be able to end the 33-year drought and give Canada an opportunity to win something again. And that's some of the things that we're trying to push across board. So if you look at the team by team competition positioning, especially with the way the table ended, one thing I can say off my head is the Eastern Conference is fairly stronger than the Western Conference, and that is the reverse when it comes to basketball. And I'll give you the reason why I said that. The best team in the entire league this season was from the Western Conference, and that's just the Colorado Avalanche. But they stand alone on their own. You understand? In fact, the next team to them, you understand, is still very far away, and that's the Minnesota Wild based on my own ratings. But generally, Colorado Avalanche stands alone on top. Every other team comes behind them. But when you are talking about galvanizing an entire conference, the Eastern Conference looks much better because you have a lot of players that were able to cross the 100 points before the end of the season. We didn't have much of that in the Western Conference. In fact, the Pacific Division was one of the weakest divisions where we had the Edmonton Oilers, we had in fact, the top three were the Edmonton Oilers, the Anaheim Ducks, and the Vegas Kings. Those three teams were within the weakest weakest division, which is the Pacific Division. So, that being said, it just gives you an idea that the Eastern Conference gives you a bit of a vibe of producing a better team to get to the Stanley Cup final. So, for team by team competition positioning, I like to say the Ottawa Senators are dangerous but very fragile. And when I did my analysis, I was looking at it. A team that has come in with wildcard positioning, and they are not really a strong house in Canada. So they can only make noise, but I see them going out in the first round. I've seen their first two games and they don't look like they can challenge for anything in this first round. I think they're represented more like a team that has underlying numbers. They can challenge a bit. They can give you a very interesting first round, but physicality, reputation, they are not there. And with the team that they are, their matchup in the first round is a tough team. I don't think that they'll be able to do that. But they still have some of their strengths based on my analysis. They have balanced scoring. They're able to produce some points because they still had more points than Edmonton in the Pacific Division. They have a good differential structure. They have enough goaltending to survive the stretch, but I don't see them getting out of the first round. The concern for me, Linus Ullmark's poor play of history is something I'm worried about. The health of Sanderson and Chabot is something I'm also worried about. I'm facing a top seed like the Hurricanes. This is a team that never loses in round one, generally. So it's going to be it's going to be a tough one. And now they are down 2-0 already in the first two games. So if you look at the underlying numbers as well, it's extremely difficult to play against, is a team that good regular season numbers like the Hurricanes. It's an horror show because you're looking at the 0.885 save percentage for their goaltender. Ottawa is more like a dark horse with a ceiling, and Carolina system is working. That experience makes a very brutal matchup for them. So I feel that the Ottawa Senators will probably just bow out in first round. Now we can now move to the Montreal Canadiens. The Montreal Canadiens have the youngest team in a long time since when I've been monitoring that team. There's a lot of youth against experience because they'll be playing a very, very, very solid Tampa Bay team. And now if you look at their identity, the Montreal Canadiens, they are more like they are surging as a young core. You understand? They are playing together very well. We have Suzuki, Huffield, Slavkovsky. All those guys are playing very well. And that line is one of the best that we have in NHL. They've brought a lot of joy to Montreal. And that's why they're a good team to watch. But I feel that they are very prone to injuries. If you look at the top line production and the team depth that they have, injuries on the defense can really make the team shake a little bit. Slavkovsky is playing well. He had a breakout season and he was able to get some confidence going into the Olympics as well. Then the strong late season goaltending performance from Dobes has also helped them. Those are some of the strengths I feel they are taking into these playoffs, and they should be able to challenge a lot. Some of the concerns I have for the Montreal Canadiens is they are missing Noah Dobson, a very good player. Their goalkeeper is more of a rookie to me versus Vasilevsky. It's going to be a tough matchup. Tampa Bay that they are facing, the physicality of that team and the playoff pedigree is different. This is a team that has won it twice within the last 10 years. So it means that these teams that are finishing with what I call preposterous 69.9% goal for percentage is going to be tough to go against them. The bottom six for Montreal don't kind of match the quality of Tampa Bay zone. It's not anywhere close, especially when you look at Montreal, who is they are beginning to. Montreal has always had much older players until recently. Recently, that they're having younger guys. In fact, look at their best player last season. Is 22 years old, Slavkovsky. Very, very young guys. So they still need a lot of what I would call 1 or 2 visits, to the postseason for them to be able to get that grit and challenge ahead of the Stanley Cup. But one thing I liked so much was Slavkovsky showing up against Agel, in a fight that happened in that match. It shows that these guys are saying, man, we are not young. Even though I'm 22 years old, you can't take advantage of me. This is the puck and we're on the ice, and the ball is going to be in between the lines. Forget about the fact that you are much older or you're more experienced or whatsoever. They are playing the game the right way, and I like what I'm seeing. So Montreal is most likely going to be able to challenge a bit, but Tampa Bay's depth is too much for them. So I see them, probably getting to a game 7, and most likely when they get to a game 7, it now, depends on who shows up on the game 7, because these two teams will go back and forth. And Montreal Canadiens a very good team this season. Now the Edmonton Oilers, that's my team. That's Canada's best hope of getting to a final and winning a Stanley Cup. They are battle tested. I've said it before. Getting to the finals back to back means that you're a very good team. Their final appearance for the last 2 years was against the same team. Now that team is no more there. They didn't even qualify for the postseason. So it's a good runway for them. But unfortunately, other teams have improved. For them to be able to get out of this, they need to go through a Colorado Avalanche. And that team, except somebody helps them beat that team is playing some of the best hockey that you can think of. Now we have McDavid, who has really improved, playing so well. We've had an improved defensive team. The structure is very defensive. Ekholm, we have Murphy, Ekholm, Daniel Nurse. All those guys are healthy. They are not injured. So we should be able to have a much structured defense. We also have a backup center now called Dickinson, who also played well yesterday in the match that I watched, and they were able to go up 1-0. And they also have deep playoff experience. Draisaitl is back. Draisaitl, in my own opinion, is the second best power play scorer in the league right now. Second best power play scorer in the league right now. So, but they still have some concerns that I put down in my analysis. There's the emotional weight already. The team feels emotional because they've gotten to the final twice and they couldn't do it. So they are going with that emotional baggage. I call it emotional baggage. Now, the team is under pressure to avoid a slow start. And the good thing is they've won game one. They are a bit careful. It's more like they are walking on eggshells now. Imagine a team that's gotten to the finals. You have not gotten it done 2 years in a row. Right now, you're in the finals again. So it's almost like there's a saying that if it happens a third time, then it's most likely a curse. You understand? If it happens the first time, okay, second time may be a coincidence, but third time is almost becoming like a curse. So they want to try and avoid that the third time, and hopefully they're able to get what I call that overcoming spirit to get to the final, because I don't think there's any team that can stop them, because even in the regular season, they still couldn't beat the Florida Panthers because of that emotional baggage they are carrying. It seemed like Calgary Flames, that is not good as them, was beating Florida. Other teams in the league were beating Florida, but this Oilers team still couldn't beat that Florida team. So there's an emotional baggage anytime they meet the Florida Panthers. So I think they are determined to overcome that string of 2 consecutive Stanley Cup final losses. And I wish they are prepared for it, approach it, especially the first final they got to. The structure of that team was a bit more mature than the second final. So if they're able to take that kind of mentality into a final this time around, they should be able to get it done. Now, in the Western Conference, is a bit up in the air. Colorado is number one favorite across all analytics that I've seen so far, even watching TSN. Colorado is the team everybody is rooting for. But there's a present course. Whichever team has the best results in the regular season, at least within the last 10 years, does not end up even getting the Stanley Cup or winning it. And that has happened. Even last year, we had Winnipeg Jets as the best team in regular season. They didn't even go near the final at all. So there's a course already existing that Colorado has been the best team in the regular season, but they may not be able to win the Stanley Cup, except they want to break the course that has been there for roughly about 10 years. So Colorado Avalanche are still favorites for a lot of people. Dallas, Vegas, Minnesota, these teams are all legitimate threats, but they still have to prove a lot, especially in this first round. Let's see what they have to show in this first round. Utah Mammoths coming in as a new team, and they're an unpredictable team. Not following the normal convention of the hockey wildcard, but they are the only team that team is less than 3 years old, because 4 years ago, Utah Mammoth didn't exist in the league. Even though we've had Utah Hockey Club long ago, but Utah Mammoth as a team is less than 5 years old in the league, and now they are in their first postseason. So a lot of people are looking at, what is the team going to come up with? And the good thing is they've won one of their first 2 games already. So they are showing that they have that grit. So Edmonton is very much respected in the league, but not so favored. So we'll try to see, how they're able to get out of the West, because they have to go through Colorado. You have to go through the best team in the West to go and represent the West in the Stanley Cup. So looking at the Eastern Conference is a bit different. We have the Carolina and Tampa Bay teams who are powerhouses on their own. Those two normally have to muzzle each other for us to know who will get out of the Eastern Conference, especially if you want to get out of the East, you have to go through the best. And now that we don't have Florida Panthers this year, Carolina and Tampa Bay are most likely the 2 teams that will have to muzzle it out, and one of them will get out. Buffalo is I consider Buffalo team as a feel-good story. They had a good run immediately coming back from the Olympics. Until now, they are still playing very, very well. They won one of their first two games already, and it shows that they can push it. Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, they are bringing a lot of star power and youth. Philadelphia has won their first two games already, so it's looking like they need two more wins to be able to get into the second round. So it's becoming like a Cinderella story for Philadelphia Flyers. Philadelphia Flyers happens to be one of the teams too that caught fire after the Olympics. So we're trying to see, where they bring this energy and how they're able to get it done. Montreal and Ottawa are underdogs, with some kind of upside. If you look at an overview generally when you're looking at the conference, but they can challenge, and these are two Canadian teams as well. So all of these teams are underdogs to the powerhouse Carolina Hurricanes and Tampa Bay generally. So I want to see, what they're able to do with this first round. And, if they can try and make it count, it will give a lot of fans across Canada a lot of joy. So for me, the key meta teams across, looking at some of the things I've talked about, is emphasizing youth versus experience. A lot of teams have younger players, and that's why I felt bad for the Sharks. I really wanted the Sharks to qualify, San Jose Sharks, because McLean Celebrini was having a very, very good season. But unfortunately, they didn't qualify. So if we have Montreal, Buffalo, Philadelphia, very, very young team, if you look at those three teams, then you have fast, hungry, and that's Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is playing with a crazy speed. They're playing with a very crazy speed. As if they're hungry. They really want to show that they're ready. The Carolina, Pittsburgh are playing with more experience than any other thing. They are more structured, and two of them are battle tested. Yeah. But the Pittsburgh Penguins are already going out because the Philadelphia Flyers has beaten them twice already. So they are 2-0 in the series already. So I see them falling apart very fast. Goaltending is a deciding factor. Tampa has Vasilevsky, who is playing well. Carolina has a question mark in their goaltending. Ottawa has Olmark, who has some kind of play of garbage, or let me call it baggage. Generally, Montreal has rookies all through. Caulfield, even their goaltending is a young team. So a lot can still change within some of the things I've identified already. But let's still see. Edmonton is beginning to get that stability, and the stability came towards the end of the season. So I'm not completely writing off Edmonton because that's my team. They can still make some noise. Now, Canadian teams are carrying a lot of media pressure because you have only three teams that are going to be able to challenge. Then there's a national expectation as well. Then the narrative of Canadians are trying to remove that narrative of underachievement. Canadian teams in the NHL are tired of them being called underachievers. So they want to be able to go in and change the narratives, especially the fact that in the 80s, Canadian teams were dominating, with Montreal and Edmonton winning a lot of Stanley Cup. But right now, Canadian teams are being looked at as underachievers, especially with the Canadian team getting to the final back-to-back and they just couldn't win it. Yeah, so the cup will most likely shift. We're looking at team building, recruitment happening, team stepping up, confidence across the league. Nobody ever saw Colorado Avalanche being number one, based on regular season performance. So things are shifting. And 5 of the most important storylines that I put together in my analysis is Canada. They have, something to prove this time around. 3 teams. One of them should at least get to the final and most likely win it all. So they have the opportunity to rewrite history. The 33 years wait must stop. Slavkovsky has ascended for the Montreal Canadiens. He's playing at a very high level. He had a wonderful performance in the Olympics, and now he has become a weapon. I call him a star who is already born. He's not waiting to be born. He's a star who has already metamorphosed and is pushing. Ottawa, the team nobody wants except Carolina. That's the day. So Carolina is happy because they have a very easy first round. Ottawa cannot survive the speed of Carolina Hurricanes. They will most likely lose. It's a dangerous team to play, especially when Ottawa came in as a wild card. The Carolina has still been one of the teams that have 100% in their first round. They've won their first 2, and hopefully Ottawa wants to try and see how they can turn that around. McDavid is going through what I call a redemption arc. He's trying to see how we can redeem going to the finals twice and not winning. Now he has the opportunity to redeem himself and cover that face of shame and try and, correct some of the things. 2 finals losses is not easy. If it happens the 3rd time, then it's almost like a curse. Now, the East is where the war zone is happening. Any team that makes it out of the East has a lot of my accolades in place, has a lot of my congratulations, because the East is very tough. The distance between, on the West side, the distance between distance between the Colorado Avalanche and every other team is far. But for the East, it's a lot of tough teams. You have Buffalo that has gone through a debate. You have Pittsburgh that is going through some kind of a last dance with a lot of their players getting older. We have Crosby that is in the league for, more than a decade, so almost 2 decades now, right now, if you look at it well. You have Philly with their youth movements, Philadelphia Eagles that are, playing well, their youth movement. So a lot of teams are improving in the East. Tampa Bay's dynasty, they're trying to create a DNA back to winning because they won twice in the last 10 years. And the Carolina team, who is playing like machine, they are very fast and consistent. So a lot is going on. Now, the coach of Carolina and Tampa Bay also have a lot to prove because these are two experienced coaches. And these are two teams that, were following each other head and neck, in the Eastern Conference. So let's see how it goes. Thank you very much for staying till the end. These are some of the updates that we have from the NHL. Continue watching the postseason and we'll definitely bring you some more analysis as we go on. Thank you very much and God bless. Enjoy the rest of the day.